Alright, what we're going to look at today is types of inequality signs and specifically looking at graphing those inequality signs. So to graph an inequality, we need a number line and we need to understand what types of inequality signs are. Two basic types of inequality signs is like this one right here. This is a less than sign. I know it's a less than sign because as I read it from left to right, just like reading a book, I come across the point first, or the alligator tail, some of were saying. So as I read it from left to right and I come across a point, this is a less than sign. As I read it from left to right and I come across the mouth first, then this is a greater than sign. So less than, greater than. Now if you notice, these look exactly or very similar to those over here. So this is a less than, but the line underneath it also relates it to the equal to sign. So this is a less than or equal to, and a greater than or equal to. Equal to. This right here means they are not equal. Okay, not equal. Equal sign with the slash. Alright, now when we graph inequalities, because it's equal to, that means that we can have a closed circle. Closed circle when I go to graph them. Now these over here are going to be open circles. Open circles because they cannot include that number. That'll make more sense as we look at this right here. Okay, so as we look at number 1, this is n is less than or equal to -5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting a dot, or actually in our case a circle, over the -5. Okay, what I need to now look down here with my inequality sign, and that is this one right here, it's going to be closed in because it can include that -5. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to color in my -5. Alright, so now I need to draw a line either going to the left or to the right. Now, in my original equation it said n is less than, which means it's going to be smaller than that number. So my arrow will be going this way. So that's what it would look like graphed. Okay, so let's look at number 4 right here, where r is greater than 2. Greater than is going to be an open circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the 2, and I'm going to do an open circle. Notice that I'm in my positive 2, not the -2. And then r is greater than, so I'm going to take it this way. So right now, if you notice, when I have my variable first, and this only happens in this case, when my variable's first, this sign, this inequality sign, points the direction that my arrow is going to be going. And actually on this one, it was a little bit misleading because it doesn't stop there. The arrow goes all the way. So this right here, r can be any of these numbers over here. N can be any of these numbers over here. One thing I really have to watch for is when my variable is negative. I never want to have a negative variable. So right here I've got a -x is greater than or equal to 2. I need to take care of that negative variable before I do anything else. So out to the side, I'm just going to write this equation out again. Okay, so remember, I think of this as a 1 right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by a -1, cross those off, divide by a -1. So now I've got 2, because 2 divided by 1, but it's going to be negative. Now here's where I have to pay close attention. Whenever I divide by a negative, like I did right here, it's going to flip this sign. Multiplying or dividing by a negative changes the direction of the inequality. So instead of being a greater than, it's now going to be a less than. This is the equation that I'm going to graph over here, because I first need to get my variable positive. So I had to divide by a -1, which flips the inequality sign. So I go to -2. I'm going to put a closed circle. And the reason it's a closed circle is because this right here is a less than or equal to. So -2, closed circle. Then I'm going to put my arrow. Now notice how my variable's first, so my arrow is going to be going this way. That's the way my line's going. Making sure that I've got my closed circle on -2. Okay, so let's look at 18. Now with number 18, it's not as bad because when I look as I read it, it's -2 is greater than b. So my question then becomes, do I need to do anything? And the answer is no, other than my normal stuff, because if I look right here, my variable is positive. So I can just simply graph this out where I put a open circle on -2. Reason it's open because the line is not underneath the inequality. Then, oh, all right, so normally my arrow would have been going this way if my variable would have been first, but because my variable is not first, it's actually going to go the opposite way. And let's see why that is. Because what this says right here is that the b is less than the -2. See how it's got the tail? It's going to be smaller numbers, and this over here are the smaller numbers. And that's the basics of graphing inequalities.